Hi everybody and welcome to Adobe Live. My name is Flynn. I'm joined by Demas Rusli. It's so great to have you here. We're going to get stuck into it in just 1 second. Demas, this is the first time we've had you on all year. It's so great to see you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be here. And yeah, it has been a long time actually.
Yeah,
we're doing it. How long has it been? Months.
Months, easily months. And we're talking about mobile photography, right? Like the best camera you have is the best camera is the one you have, right? And we're all carrying cameras around.
Have you done much mobile photography stuff on Adobe Live?
No, we haven't. We don't cover it that much, which is why I know you're a bit of an expert in it. You know, I know you do a lot of work with Samsung. So you've got like a decked out phone camera, which I do think helps.
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing work with Samsung for a bit now, and I think it doesn't matter what camera you use or have. It's just like how you utilize it. And yeah, it's whatever camera you have, even if it's the one in your pocket, it's completely fine.
Do you keep every photo you've ever taken? Like, do you ever go through and delete photos, or you just keep everything?
I never delete anything.
Yeah, so
even
that's coming handy.
Sometimes I just I accidentally press the shutter button or something, and then I just keep it, like, just in case.
Yeah.
The first thing I think is just like before you even take any photos.
Yeah.
I would always try to just wipe the camera. So your phone is, I guess, always in your pocket or in your bag. So I was trying to just wipe it on my shirt, or even use a microfiber cloth to just clean the lens a little bit, because it's going to be dusty. Maybe it improves the sharpness of your image. I don't know. And then the next thing I would do is kind of just tweak the settings on your camera. Mm-hmm. So for example, turning on your rule of thirds grid lines, making sure that you're shooting in 4:3. So your camera sensor is usually a 4:3 sensor. So if you're shooting full screen, which is 9:16 or something, it's usually just a cropped version of your 4:3.
Oh, okay.
So if you're shooting 4:3, then you get the biggest resolution the camera can give, kind of thing.
Right, makes sense.
So that's another one. And then also, if you can, you try to shoot in RAW if your phone can do it. But if not, that's fine as well. Today, we're going to be editing just JPEG photos from my phone that I just took 2 weeks ago. On a Samsung phone, I think in a lot of other phones, there's also this thing called Pro Mode, which means you can control your settings. So you can control your shutter speed, you can control your ISO, but a lot of phones, you can't control your aperture. It's just a locked aperture. So it's kind of easier than a normal camera, because you only need to control 2 settings rather than 3.
Yeah.
So once you lock your ISO to a low number, you can just play with the shutter speed until you get the right exposure, pretty much.
Cool.
So yeah, and so usually in that Pro mode, you can shoot RAW, and yeah, RAW is always good, because then you can have more data and flexibility when you're editing, because then you can bring out more colors, more shadows, more highlights, etc. Then the next tip, which kind of leads on to what we're going to be editing, is try to use all the cameras on your phone. So use the ultra wide, use the standard, use the telephoto. So from one spot, try to use all the cameras, and don't just be thinking about one camera, kind of thing. So yeah, so if we go into Lightroom, so this is not the beach photo here is not taken on my phone. It's just a random photo. But
I'd be worried for your safety if you took that on your phone. So is that your photo? Is that a drone or something, or?
Yeah, it's a photo I took in Hawaii, using a drone. Yeah, so when after I go home and get all the photos done, I would usually just plug my phone to my computer, copy all the photos onto a folder, and then I would bring it into Lightroom Classic. So once you got your photos loaded into the computer, you just have to go to Lightroom and go File, Import, and then you just find your folder, pretty much, which is this one for me. So looking through all this, we're going to pick one photo using the ultra wide, one photo using the standard, and then because my phone currently has 2 telephoto lenses, so I'm going to pick one using my 3x zoom and one using the 10x zoom, so that we can edit all 4 and come up with a carousel post for Instagram, I guess.
Cool.
Yeah, I would just go through it one by one, and then I guess let's say what's the difference between this one and this one, for example. The sky's exposed a bit better here, and my wife's standing, I guess, in a nicer pose, so I think I'll pick this one.
Yep.
And if you want to pick it, I just press the P button. And if you want to unselect it, you just press U. And then once you got your photos, I just click import and let it load. So let's just start with editing the first picture, which is this ultra wide shot.
Cool.
For me, you just start off by going to the develop tab. I don't usually like use presets or anything, so I usually just like edit from scratch pretty much. And if you're editing a set, then I would start with one, and then I would copy the settings to all the other ones, and then see how we go from there. Just to begin with, I would usually start by cropping the photo, because on Instagram it's usually 4:5 ratio. So I would go here and pick 4:5, and then you can toggle using different guidelines.
Yeah.
So I always like to use, like, for example, this one to make sure the horizon line is straight and make sure the subject is centered, for example, and just like, and then changing it to like the rule of thirds guidelines, and then just like picking a good composition for it, like where are the points intersecting and all that kind of stuff. And then I would just go through each kind of slider one by one and just like move them left and right and see if I like it this way or that way, and then just like try to do it like instinctively, like don't think about it too much, just like, oh, I like this, and then just move on to the next one kind of thing.
Right.
So like, I'm just going to brighten this, for example, using the exposure, add a bit of contrast to just like make the image pop out a little bit more. But this is just like, I guess, my preference of how I edit, right? So everyone has their own preference. So this is completely subjective and up to you. And like I'm just literally moving each slider, like, shadows. I like to make it a little bit more darker, so just like give more emphasis onto the blacks of the image, and also the blacks as well. I'll probably make it a bit darker, just make the image pop out a bit more. For me, I've kind of developed my style, the way I like to edit throughout, like, I don't know, maybe 5-6 years now. And so like I kind of already know if I'm going to push this slider left or right, or like what might look good here, might look good there. So it's all about just like practicing and like repetition, and up to you, right? Like what you want to, what you like, and up to you to find out what you like as well. So the more you shoot, the more you edit, the more you can find out what you like. And like here in the HSL panel, I'm just going to slide. I think I'm going to bring out the oranges, because it's kind of like what the architecture is. It's like all like sandstone, wood. So I'm going to try to bring out that a little bit more in terms of the colors, and the yellows as well. So just accentuating what was already given to me by the location. I also like aqua and teal colors. So like I always make my blues, I push my blues a little bit more towards the aqua side. But it's just like, again, another personal preference thing. If you like purples, then you should, push the colors to purple or whatnot. We're not completely done yet, but if you press the backslash button, you can see the before and after. It's like, it's not too crazy, but you can see just that difference.
Big difference.
So it just brightens it up, and like, puts more emphasis on the subject and the location as well. I usually add like a tiny bit of noise reduction, and I sharpen the image a little bit like this. And then that's kind of it. Like maybe add a little bit of vignetting just to like bring more focus to the subject. So I just usually open the second image, and then I press Shift R on my keyboard to open reference view. So it opens like, it's kind of split screen it, and then I drag the photo that I already edited into the first one. So it just becomes like a little reference angle, just to check if your colors are going to be, right or not. I would go back to the first one, and then I would copy it. So down here, there's copy. Probably turn off the crop, because the crop's going to be different. Maybe turn off, what else?
I think you want to turn off the spot removal, top right as well.
The local adjustments and spot removal. And then sometimes transform as well, because sometimes I straighten a photo or whatnot. Right. So I think that's it. Then you copy it. You go to the next image, and then you paste and see what happens. So that's kind of a little bit better already, but I would also still probably increase the brightness and just like push it up a little bit more. So now it kind of matches a bit better. I think our brain works when looking at something that's supposed to be like aesthetically pleasing in like threes and like
Yeah.
and a grid of three, like horizontally and vertically. And so if you try to split your images into 3 quadrants, vertically and horizontally, where is it? Quadrants usually are 4, so it's not quadrants, it's a different word.
We could say segments. Segments
yes,
works.
3 segments. Then usually people say you get a more like aesthetically pleasing image, or the composition is better, for example. That's subjective because, you know, like people might think something else is better, so it doesn't. But I mean, it's just a general rule. You would try to position things like in that intersection, the points of intersection, where these 4 corners are meeting. Then I would just keep going. So the third image is this third one I took on the 3x telephoto lens. Again, I'm just going to paste it because we've already copied it. So paste and see what happens. It's still a bit dark again, so I'm going to push the brightness up and try to match it a bit, and highlights down so that the center point tower doesn't disappear. Yeah, and then now just go to the last image, which is this 10x zoom image. Again, I'm going to paste it. That's again done an okay job already, and then I'm going to crop it again. Maybe this one I'll get rid of this sprinkler, so just crop it in a bit more. Like see here, like this rule of thirds guideline at the bottom, I'm kind of using it as a guide with this white kind of beam.
Yeah.
So that it's kind of within that image, and it's giving that image a bit more balance, I think, for me, in my opinion. I guess if you're shooting architecture, it helps as well, because like, you know, architectures are bringing together of materials, for example, right? So how did the designers join this to this thing? So like join wood to metal, or join the metal to the glass, for example. Like how did it all come together? So looking from this first image here, you see the whole composition, which is the ultra wide. Then you go in a little bit more detail and show like, you know, the shapes of the building and the shapes of the roof and the glass and the, you know, the transoms and stuff. And then you go in a little bit more detail, and, you know, maybe the architect was trying to frame the center point tower using one of these holes, maybe. So you're trying to bring out what the thinking behind some of the design process, right?
Yeah.
And then the last thing is just like trying to get some detail. So like, how did the materiality come together? So using like those 4 images, I usually would just select 4, and then I would go File, Export, and then for me, the exporting process is already like kind of automatic, I guess, because I've already done it a lot. So I choose it. I go to a specific folder in my Dropbox called Future Instagram. So I know that it's going to land in there. I don't put it into any subfolders. I just make it 100% JPEG quality, and I just leave everything. Like resolution, I think it only matters when you're going to print it, so it doesn't really matter too much. I don't resize anything. I just leave it the way it is. So I'm just going to import in another photo that I took at the location. But yeah, so I think let's just go with like this one, for example, to get the landscape image. So you just want to, first of all, I'm going to paste it again like before. Yeah, so actually I'm going to paste the one we did from the second image because it's more similar to it in terms of style. Copy this one, copy that, and then paste it to the one we just imported. That's not bad. I think the oranges, yeah, I want to push the yellow more towards the orange side. And then I want to rotate it. So I'm going to transform and then rotate right, for example. So that's the landscape image that we're going to be using.